lasers. And this is the Royal Canadian Legion, rank 60, and this is also the photo of Ernest, Alvia, Smokey Smith. We tried to get in there, but unfortunately we couldn't because they don't allow 19 below to get to visit. However, we did get this very valuable information book. So let's have a look at it.
The C4th Highlanders Regiment landed in Sicily in July 1943, part of a bid by the British and Americans to push the Germans out of Italy. By mid-1944, the armies had won Sicily and were on the Italian mainland facing off with German tank divisions. The Sea Force's contributions was their tank hunters, 3-man squads assigned to root out German tanks and destroy them with hand-kill anti-tank guns. On the night of October 21st, several squads, including Smith, crossing the Saviour River just before a flash flood blocked colleagues from crossing over. Left at the front line of the Canadian forces and realizing there would be no reinforcements, they sheltered in a bombed-out church to wait out the storm. Before dawn, a sniper picked off one of them. Soon after, the ominous metallic grind of Tiger tank, the largest in German army, could be heard. They needed to act. Smith's squad, which include best mate Jimmy Tennant, went outside and soon came under fire. Tennant took shrapnel in the arm and collapsed before a third man in squad was badly wounded. Smith dragged the pair into a shell hole along the side of the road and gave them first aid before he heard the Tiger tank approaching. From 10 meters, he blasted at its side, stopping it in its tracks. The 10 Germans atop the tank jumped off and started looking for Smith, who was distancing himself from his injured mates so they wouldn't be noticed. When he killed 4 of the pursuing German soldiers with his Thompson submachine guns, the other man retreated when another armored vehicle rolled down the road. Smokey destroyed it, then he hit another tank, damaging it and forcing it to retreat. The skirmish convinced Germans the Canadian force were too much for them to handle. They pulled back for good. Smith looked back on the killing with a clear mind. I didn't want many people. If I shot someone, they were going to be dead. It didn't bother me, he said. When I got back, I had people saying, "Christ, he's a cruel bastard." I said, "Oh well, I was there and you weren't. I didn't worry about it."
Ernest Alvia Smith joined the army not for any sense of duty, rather than it was a job and more money than he could make staying in Canada. This is what a great many signed up. Once Smith was over to the battlefield, he realized how important the war was to Canada and the freedom of the world. He never glorified the war, rather he always said that he had a job to do, and he did it. He never once considered himself a hero, rather he would always say that the true heroes were the ones who never came home. Even in war, how many of us would risk everything to save a friend's life? One would like to think that they would, but not many would. When he got the Victoria Cross, he was pulled off the front and sent to England. They never told him why. When he got to London, again, without telling him a word, they put him in the brig. He did not know that it was for his own protection. They did not want him drinking too much before he was to see the king. He never knew until they opened the brig door and he was given the clean uniform what he was about to get. Even after he got the Victoria Cross, he had to keep it hidden until he was told that it was okay. It took a while for the press release to get sent out. In 1947, Smith wed Esther Watson and subsequently sired 2 children, David and Normandy. After his retirement from the military, Smith opened a travel agency with his wife, Smith Travel. During these years, Smith regularly visited sites related to World War II with his clients. He retired in 1992. He passed away in Vancouver on August 3, 2005 at the age of 91. Just prior to his death, he had been over Europe in May to mark the 60th anniversary of the end of the war. Just before that, he was in the hospital and they did not think he was going to make it. His lungs were in bad shape, as was his heart. He talked often about his funeral arrangements, and he thought it was so wonderful that such a fuss was going to be made for him when he was a private, when he won the Victoria Cross. He would laugh as he knew that even high-ranking generals would not get the funeral that he was to have. It had been planned for years since Sea Merit passed away, leaving Smokey as Canada's last Victoria Cross. He was buried at the sea by the Navy. His medals are in a museum at the Seaforth Highlanders on Barat Street. There is a talk that they would end up in Ottawa, the National War Museum.